inclusion is not charity work. A lot of people might think that inclusion is charity work, and so I want to kind of quickly dispel that idea. Let me just assure you, everyone wins with inclusion, and inclusion improves your bottom line. So, for all of our businesses that are listening to this today, I want to really drive that message home. Inclusion is not charity work. Yes, you might make some accommodations, but your financial bottom line will win because of it. Individuals love to go to an organization that has been intentional about giving back to their community.
Our voices, stories, and experiences are powerful and need to be shared to create a more inclusive world. Welcome to Hablemos, conversations with talented humans about inclusion, leadership, and purpose. I'm your host, Carolina Veira, finance and business strategist, DEI champion, and proud Latina. I'm also the director of partnerships at CareMax, where I lead initiatives to promote the value of healthcare, education, inclusion, entrepreneurship, and community engagement, while fostering partnerships with other corporations and organizations in the U.S. This episode features Tamika Lechee Morales, teacher, actress, writer, and speaker, as well as the president of the Autism Hero Project, a non-for-profit organization that is dedicated to raising awareness and compassion for families and children impacted with autism, and help them gain access to ABA therapy by providing them with medical insurance. They work alongside local businesses, government agencies, and community leaders to promote a world that is intentional about love and inclusion. Excited and proud to be hosting Tamika Lechee Morales today.
Hola, hola.
What can I tell you? She is an actress. She is a CEO. She is an author. She is a proud mom. She's many, like I say, humans, we all have many, many layers. And Tamika, you are one of those wonderful humans. Wherever she goes, she brights really, really, really. You have a special shine. You shine so bright. That's what I should have said. And the beauty of it is that you cover everyone around you with that beautiful shine of yours. So I'm very excited to have you here today. How are you, Tamika?
Well, with that intro, I'm feeling fantastic. I'm excited to be with you. Thank you, Carolina, for this opportunity, and Hispanic Star, of course. I'm excited. I'm on fire, ready to go. Whatever you
I
want
know
to
you're
talk about.
always ready to go, and I love that because your energy is so contagious. But let's start by the beginning.
Okay.
Tell us more about who Tamika is. What is her current project? What does her family look like? What's her heritage? Everything.
Okay, I guess let's start with heritage, since that's the last thing you left off on. I am proud to call myself Boricua. I am made in Puerto Rico, but born and raised in New York City. So a true New Yorican, kind of titled after my play, The New Yorican. I was raised in the projects of Coney Island, so I always go back to, depending on your age, you might know this movie or not, but Warriors come out and play. I love that movie. So it's just like a Coney Island staple movie. So that's where I was raised at, and now I reside in Chicago. This is my home now. I'm a transplant. And let's see, that's my dog, Socrates, barking.
We love dogs. We love
Yeah,
dogs.
okay, good. We have a landscaper who's, I guess, landscaping in the back, and he's now like going crazy. But anyway, back to the point. So I live in Chicago, and I am la presidenta the Autism Hero Project, which is a 501c nonprofit organization with a vision that helps to prepare kids with autism for the world and prepare the world for them. And we have like a mission that's kind of threefold. First is obviously that we like to kind of promote autism awareness, but I often like to say that awareness is not enough. So you know some data, so you know some, a little bit about maybe some of the traits of an autistic person, but if it's not enough to really convict you at the heart, to be an agent of change, and more importantly, an agent of inclusion, then it's just not enough. And so we promote acceptance and we promote inclusion and belonging. And then on top of that, we kind of been working a lot lately with legislation because you can't bring inclusion without some form of legislation. So I'm super excited to announce that just last month, governor signed into law a bill that I proposed, which now will be in the state of Illinois. The very first week of April will be Autism Awareness and Acceptance Week, where they are encouraging school districts, because I'm also a school teacher, a dual language school teacher, but they're encouraging school districts, businesses, organizations, and communities to kind of bring this awareness and to kind of put on events that are centered around autism and helping to create that change that we need to see in the world. And lastly, what makes us the most famous is that we purchased medical insurance for children on the autism spectrum who basically don't have access to the therapies that they need to thrive and strive and reach their full potential. And so we are that financial bridge for those who are uninsured or underinsured or who have insurance but just financially can't afford, the insurance premiums that come around ABA therapy, applied behavior analysis therapy, which is the number one therapy recommended for children on the autism spectrum. So that's a lot, but the inspiration, the genesis behind the Autism Hero Project for me was that of my own son, who was diagnosed in 2015, June 4th. And the first 2 years, that was really hard. And then, you don't know what you don't know. And so the light started to crack through the dark and the cracks and the broken pieces I had, and the beauty came shining through with the Autism Hero Project, and now we're helping countless families get access.
No,
So,
and I truly love what you're doing. I know that it's a mission of love, and what you mentioned, it's throughout that the darkness, the light starts shining through, and everything takes form, right? I mean, I hopefully you can share a little bit of the numbers, but I know that you've impacted over what 100,000 kids, or am
well,
I,
no, we've actually, what
or
we've done
you've
to date,
raised?
we've been around, yes, we've been around since 2017. And to date, we have funded close to $150,000 worth of medical insurance for children on the spectrum. And I'm super excited because this year, right now, our applications are live. So if you know someone who lives in the state of Illinois who needs access, please have them go to autismheroproject.org and download a medical insurance grant application. Right now, they're live until November 15th. And I'm excited because we're going to fund even more this year than we have in the 3 years combined that we've been doing this
Wow,
prior to that. So,
unbelievable.
yeah,
So many
we've been
families.
working really
And
hard in this
no,
pandemic.
I know, because you're everything with your company. You're doing a lot of things, wearing many hats, but you do have hopefully a system of support, like a network of support there with other moms who are or other parents who are experiencing similar situations, right, to what you're going through. So I know that you're impacted many lives there, and there's a documentary about it.
And yeah, there's we created, I actually took the best of my both worlds of, my acting and my writing and all of that. And I created kind of like a short, I would say it's just under 9 minutes. It's right on the front page of the Autism Hero Project, or if you go to our Facebook page, it's pinned on there. Um, it's actually even in our LinkedIn video, but it's basically, a hero story of really understanding what it's like for families who have children on the autism spectrum. And there's a couple in there who has actually multiple children with autism. They actually have two children. And so it kind of gives you some insight in what life is like. And they came from India, that specific family where nobody there knew what autism is, there was, and it's very taboo in that culture. And they had to leave and flee their country just to be able to get services to help their child and just a lot of cultural taboos that are surrounded around it, and it's pretty enlightening, and it's actually really sad if I'm being completely frank and honest. It's really sad. But this documentary shows, or this shorts, for lack of a better word, the story shows how the Autism Hero Project has been a true blessing for some families. And so, I feel like we were blessed that we have medical insurance and we had access. And so the idea of when I saw the game-changing therapy what it did for our son, and the fact that families don't have access because of financial reasons just was so disheartening. And I just couldn't believe that Medicaid here in the state of Illinois doesn't cover this therapy, which they say is the number one therapy. It's recommended by pediatrics. It's the number one recommended in the medical journals. And to know that is just, absurd. And so we had to come up with a way to be able to eliminate those barriers. And that's what we've done. And
Exactly. You saw the problem and you took action and you made it happen. And you're making it happen for all those families too that are going to you and asking for help, and you're providing that. And to me, what's important here is all those lives that you're changing by, just making a decision to do something about it. And that takes a lot of courage, Tamika. That takes a lot of heart. That takes a lot of passion. That takes a lot of commitment. So it's amazing what you're creating there. And you also put that story in the book that I would like to mention. It's part of the Hispanic Stars Rising Volume 1. And your story is on page 168. And I usually mention the phrase that goes with each story. Yeah, there it is. But I truly like how you end your story with inclusion, talking about inclusion and how it's not bringing people into what it already exists. Inclusion is making a new space, a better space for everyone. This only comes with being intentional about hiring and retaining people with special needs. And I remember you mentioning how you created, or you work with a restaurant in particular to make this space more friendly for kids on the spectrum. So why don't you tell us about that story? Because I thought it was so beautiful.
thank you. So, what I loved about being part of Hispanic Stars is it was right when the Autism Hero Project was pivoting, right? In a pandemic, if you want to survive, you have to pivot. In our case, we're not for profit, and there's always so many needs, right? And so medical insurance, we've kind of figured that out over the years, and we've got that down pat. And so for me, I'm always thinking, how can we do more, right? And now what? And what's next, right? Just that constant wanting to do more and be better and give more value. And so I thought the next thing is, we've been so focused on children, but we need to do something for families. And when I think about how many families are, affected really with autism, and they can't even, go out on a nice dinner date without having to set up either a babysitter, or they want to bring their children, but depending on how severely impacted their children are, they fear that people are going to look at them, or if their child starts stimming, and people don't understand this behavior. And so what we did is I'm part of another book series, actually the same publisher. So I'm part of Today's Inspired Latina, Volume 3. I like to call it the Trinity. No. And so one of our book sisters owns a Brazilian restaurant. And her and I were talking, and it was in a pandemic, and she was kind of telling me how she was hurting in the pandemic. And I had given her some examples of some things that we had done with other businesses, and, kind of explained to her that inclusion is not charity work. A lot of people might think that inclusion is charity work. And so I want to kind of quickly dispel that idea. Let me just assure you, everyone wins with inclusion, and inclusion improves your bottom line. So for all of our businesses that are listening to this today, I want to really drive that message home. Inclusion is not charity work. Yes, you might make some accommodations, but your financial bottom line will win because of it. Individuals love to go to an organization that has been intentional about giving back to their community, right? And especially when you have an affinity of talking about the numbers. You said you wanted to know about the numbers. In the United States as a whole, 1 in 54 children are being diagnosed with autism on the daily. For 1 out of every four boys that are born, one will be diagnosed with autism, compared to girls, where it's like one out of 148 approximately. But just think about that. For every four boys that are born, one will be diagnosed with autism. And, they say girls are just diagnosed a lot later. So the numbers might even be, vastly different from that. But that's what's according to the CDC. That means that it's not if I meet someone with autism, right? It's when you meet them. Because if you haven't met someone with autism by now, or you don't know someone who has a child on the autism spectrum, then you're not going out alone. Let me just tell you, because, or you're just not asking those questions. Or, some people, especially in the Latino culture, right? Some of us just stay quiet about it. Lo que pasa en la casa se queda en la casa. We have this whole
Mm-hmm.
taboo. We don't talk about these things. And, that's where I hope that this conversation starts changing that. Even for myself, there's a lot of things that I'll be honest with you. I was, the first 2 years I was in the dark. I was literally, in my woe. I was going through my stages of grief. And because of all of that, I could not see clearly. And that's the way I like to explain it, because I was missing the beauty in autism because I was too focused in the woe, in the
And the
thinking about
negatives.
all of the things that I had heard and that I had read, and just some of the behaviors that I had witnessed. You start to worry about the future, and you're just not living in the now. You're not living in the present. And when you are living in the now and you are living in the present, you get to see the beauty that you don't often get to see. You know what? So what? Your child is not making a milestone. So what if they haven't, learned how to potty train by 2 years old and they're five now, right? You know, there's some things that just need a little extra time, right? Look at, Kentucky Fried Chicken, the Colonel. He didn't open up his first Kentucky Fried Chicken until he was 70 years old. And look at this huge franchise all over the place, right? So things just happen a little bit later. That doesn't mean that they're not going to happen. They just might take some extra time. Um, and so with that, back to the restaurant. I was talking to one of my book sisters. She owned a Brazilian restaurant. She was telling me how she was hurting in this pandemic. I told her, there's something that I've been wanting to pilot, and can we team up and can we partner up? And so what we did is we went into her business and we kind of did this walkthrough, and we talked about some of the sensory issues that autistic individuals have, light, sounds. We created a visual social story, which for a lot of, people, if you don't know about autism, then this story might not mean much to you. But, there's these social stories that provide visuals, since a lot of autistic individuals are very much visual learners. And so it's a visual story. There is words to it for those who are cognitive enough who can read, that kind of tells them the expected behaviors of what to expect when they're dining out in a restaurant and what to look for. And specifically, this restaurant's a little bit different because it has gauchos who come and they serve you. And, you have to, green card means I want some more, right? Yo quiero más. Red means para, like, let me burp and let me, let the air out a little bit before you keep serving me up some more, right? And so, it was kind of like those expectations. On top of that, we talked about the right music. We talked about this separate room that they had that they could use for families who wanted to dine a little more privately if they felt the need. We talked about how they had windows, and, autistics love, visuals. They love to go and sit by a window, right? And that kind of helps them with their soothing. We got sensory bins for different age groups that have all kinds of fidgets and sensory output items and headphones. And one thing that we did was we created a special menu for them. They never had a kids menu. And then on top of that, their food items were not classified as casein or dairy free, or, just, vegetarian, or just certain things that, a lot of restaurants that are sensory friendly would include, which also would things like chicken nuggets. Every autistic child likes chicken nuggets and mac and cheese and pizza and all these other things. And so we took, after we surveyed everything, right, we created a special menu for them. And then they didn't have a visual restroom sign. So, we really kind of somewhat upgraded the restaurant, and we trained their employees. And they're such a fantastic restaurant with fantastic customer service that their employees were so on board to be able to identify, because it's not like autism is like Down syndrome, for example. You can't see someone and identify that they're on the spectrum, right? But there's behaviors that can be identified. So we showed them videos that they were able to train with their staff. We had conversation about it. We did a whole write-up for them to read through, and it took a little bit, and then we put all this stuff in place. And we were excited because we had a big press release and we had a big event over there and we sold out the place and we have another event this Thursday. And they are a testament that will tell you that everyone wins with inclusion. And so they've gotten a lot of press and a lot of families have come there and they're just so excited that they have a place that's a nice dining place, right? Where they can enjoy eating in peace without fear, without worry, without people worrying if that they're looking at them. And it's truly a win-win.
Hi, everybody. Hola a todos. This is Carolina. I personally would like to invite you to be part of Hablemos by heading over to carolinaveda.com/Hablemos to sign up today. And while you're there, take a look at my DEI initiatives and discover how we can all be agents of change by creating sustainable projects through a DEI lens and by sharing and celebrating our authentic stories and experiences while leading with compassion and empathy. No, and the fact that the numbers that you are sharing with us are I don't want to say how can I make this
Alarming? Alarming?
I wanted to use alarming, but then like at least we should be aware of these numbers just so we can make those places, make our environments more inclusive,
Absolutely.
more welcoming of
Absolutely.
everyone. Because like what you're saying, it's precisely correct. I mean, it's everybody wins, yes, but we also want to make sure that our kids feel free and happy, and we want the best for our children. We want the best for the future generations. This is how we do
Absolutely.
it, right?
Well, and it's funny because a lot of people, you just don't know what you don't know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's companies, let's be honest. Like I kind of wrote in the book, everybody's talking about diversity and inclusion, especially now in today's age.
Mm-hmm.
D&I, DEI, DEI, right? But what they're really looking at is just the diversity part. They're really not focused on the inclusion part, right? They're looking to check off a
Right.
box. Do I have so many of this color in the place? Do I perceive our organization as being, really diversity and inclusion? But the fact is, there's so many layers to that, right? There's diversity, there's inclusion, there's belonging, which is another
Exactly.
level up, right? And so, everybody's heard this already, right? They often say, they kind of describe it as, the difference of inviting people to the party, right? And asking them to dance, right? That's the difference between diversity and inclusion. But then belonging is, did you allow them to help plan the party? Because if you help them to plan the party, then they would put those accommodations in place to ensure that everyone is showing up, having a good time, contributing to the party, feeling like they belong there and that they're not just an afterthought, that it's actually embedded in their whole culture. And that's where we need to be. That's where we need to be in a corporate environment. That's where we need to be in a social environment. That's where our communities need to be. And it's not even just about autism. I mean, there's so many there's Down syndrome. There's so many disabilities. There's those visible disabilities, but then there's those invisible disabilities, mental health, right? There's just so much. And when you think about that in this pandemic, more people have quit their jobs. More people have pivoted. More people have become self-employed. More people are just rethinking about life. When you start to realize that, tomorrow's not guaranteed, right? Do I
We
love
lost you
what
for a
I'm
minute
doing?
there.
Right? Do I love what I'm doing? Or you know, companies like to act like everybody's replaceable, right? There's no loyalty. They want loyalty, but they don't give loyalty, right? So if we're going to be real, what are our companies doing to show that they really want us there? And what accommodations are they making, right? You want
Mm-hmm.
you want retention? Well, Chase Bank did a phenomenal program and they did a study. And so they decided a few years back they decided to kind of hire autistic individuals to work in one specific department. And they hired approximately 60, I think it was, in this one department in their headquarters. And they realized that after 6 months, they had a 99% retention rate, that they had 120% productivity in 6 months than employees who had been there for years. And it was such a success, right, that they wind up bringing another group. And now they have hired internationally, not just in this one department, but throughout the whole organization in different departments. They are seeing the success of being able to hire people who are on the autism spectrum who, like I said, this is not charity work, who have increased their bottom line. They have the best retention. And they even said it. They failed in the beginning a little bit in some areas because they realized that they weren't making the accurate accommodations. And so they had some hiccups. But you live and you learn, and that's how you get better, right? If you're intentional about really wanting to make something work and you really see the value in this, everybody wants to be a contributing member of society. Everybody wants these opportunities. But most of the time, they aren't given the opportunities for some, kind of like what I write in this chapter. Often people look at those with disabilities as less than, right? They have these negative stigmas. And the fact is, guess what? They're human just as much as you and I are. You cut us, we all bleed the same, right? We all feel the same. And so at the end of the day, what are companies doing, especially when you think about the future? If you really are a visionary in your organization and you're truly thinking about the future, are you thinking those steps ahead? When you have these kind of numbers, right? What are you doing to prepare your organization to be ready? Because the landscape is changing. And are you changing with it? And are you doing the right things socially and economically and as a community to be able to kind of put those accommodations in place? They're not even that drastic of an accommodation, right? For some organizations, depending on the type of industry that you're in, and you might actually reap a lot more of the benefits than you think you will.
No, I mean you're giving us so much information, but obviously I know companies will benefit from being more inclusive. Now, if it's for the regular person who wants to learn more, where do you recommend them to go? I mean, do you offer any type of services that will help them understand how to work with and or how to service this?
So
Yes.
Um, we have just started a whole program. We want to kind of do what we did at the Brazilian restaurant, which, by the way, if you're in the Illinois area, I need to give them a shout out. Brazil Grill Express, they're in Schaumburg. We actually have an event there this Thursday, our Halloween kind of fundraiser dinner party. But I wanted to give them a shout out. But basically, we want to copy and paste this, not just in restaurants, because we're actually working with our next restaurant now, but we want to copy and paste this into other organizations, you know, uh, all kinds of industries. I'll give you an example. There was a gentleman who read a newspaper article that was kind of released out based on a different restaurant that we had worked with, who in the month of April, because it's Autism Awareness Month, wind up having a special on their desserts. They did a little table tent, and on their table tent, it talked about the Autism Hero Project is a not-for-profit and the work that we do. And on the back, it was a picture of a young girl and her story. And it said, every key lime pie you buy, $1 will be donated. But if you buy a whole pie, $5 will be donated. Also Easter's in April, so a lot of people bought pies. But what they didn't anticipate is that they sold more dessert and more key lime pies in their whole history. And they've been open for, I think, something like 60 years, this restaurant. And so a gentleman who owns a auto repair company who has an autistic daughter who's in her 40s read this article and he's like, hey, I want to help. And he was like, I don't sell pies though. And I was like, no, but you do oil changes. I bet you if you say for the month of April, right, or just all the time, you align yourself, right? And you say, hey, for every oil change, we donate back, $2 or whatever it is. I guarantee you your oil changes will go up. And so it's just amazing, because people start thinking intentionally, especially when you are impacted by something like this. I have to be honest with you. I have changed my whole mindset on how I shop, who I spend my time with, what do I do with my time. And I'm so intentional in every single area that I purposely will go out of my way to a business that I know is giving back to the community and serving in some way. So I say
And the
that they
point that,
contact us
yeah, no,
and we are
it's
creative. We'll come up with something for you.
I know that's what I love about you, but I believe that people always want to help. They want to serve. They want to find a way to do more. It's just
They
we just
do.
have to show them the way. And
Right.
you are the perfect person to do that, my dear. I know for a fact that you will think of ideas on how to align their business model to donating a portion of their gains towards the right cause, right? A great
Right.
cause.
And it doesn't have to be obviously our cause. It's a cause that could be near and dear to them,
Hmm.
maybe something that's impacted their family in some way, or something that, that they want to start. Maybe there's something that they've been wanting to start, right? But I have to be honest, I agree with you. And I think you hit Gato right on the money on when people, I think intrinsically we want to help. And here's a perfect example of that. Um, when we got our diagnosis for our son, it took me a long time to talk about it. I didn't even share it with my mom. I didn't share it with my siblings. I didn't share it with my best friends for way longer than I care to be honest about and share, right? But what I will tell you is that when I did, right before I started speaking about it and before I came out and before I shared it, I was speaking to a friend of my husband's who is a big, huge public speaker. I mean, Forbes, Maxwell, he does all of it. And he was like, don't be afraid to get vulnerable, Tamika. He's like, don't be afraid to share it. He goes, just think about just how people are just as human beings. And he gave the perfect example. He goes, you ever notice when someone comes to you and they dare to tell you something heavy that's on their heart, right? And they share something with you, what is your automatically like inclination to do? You want to help. You start to think of all these creative ways. Well, maybe I can connect you with this person, or maybe I can do this for you, right? Just there's just this, we're just godly creatures, right? And we want to serve in any way that we can. And especially when it's someone's child and, work like this is hard work. Everybody who is
Absolutely.
part of the Autism Hero Project, we do it on a volunteer basis. 100%. None of us get paid for our work. We've been doing this. This is going on 5 years for me right now. I've done this without collecting a single cent because we feel that we'd rather give our time, our talents, our treasures to those families who have such needs, right? And, we feel blessed that we have medical insurance and that we have access. And so we just want to give it all away and we just want to help. And so when you share whatever is heavy on your heart, people just naturally want to help. And so I agree. I think you're right, Gato.
I think you couldn't have said it before. Your friend couldn't have said it.
Any
Couldn't have
better?
said it any better. Your friend couldn't have said it any better. I think that you are the perfect way, the perfect channel for people who want to help. So it's an invitation for everyone and anyone who wants to lend a hand, who wants to make, I don't know, a donation, who wants to rethink their business model to be more inclusive, to reach out to you, certainly, and to see if there's any way that we can expand and take whatever you've built in Chicago and take it to other places, because you never know.
Absolutely.
That's
Copy and
that's the
paste.
beauty.
Copy and paste. Yes.
Copy and paste, yes.
Why
So I
reinvent the wheel? Yes.
and I know that we have come to the limit of our time here, but it's been a wonderful conversation because I knew that you had so much to share about this beautiful project, which is the Autism Hero Project. And I want you to give out more information as to how do people reach out to you. What are the next events? I know you mentioned the Halloween party there, but anything and everything that you would like to share. And trust me, I mean,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of families out there who need your support. So, and who want to support as well.
Well, tonight, if somebody's watching this right now, tonight we actually are doing a Facebook Live event where you can register on Eventbrite still right now. It'll be also streaming on our YouTube channel. Um, we're going to be doing an informational, a Q&A. So we're going to go over what our medical insurance grant application, how to complete the application. It's in English and está en español for those who need it in Spanish. We are going to be describing, what kind of things you need to have on the application. If you're confused about any part, we're going to answer your questions. We're going to have a private insurance broker who's going to be on the line with us to help families kind of navigate what insurance they need to apply for. And then they submit the grant to us, and then we approve families and we start to take over and we pay their medical insurance premiums. So we have that going on this evening. This Thursday, we're going to be at Brazil Express Grill, getting our Halloween party fundraiser dinner on. All you can eat. Oh my God, the food is just scrumptious. Actually, I'm hungry right now just thinking about it. My mouth is watering. But we're going to be there on Thursday. And then our next event, which I'm super excited to share, nobody knows yet. I feel like the TikTok. Nobody knows. This December 19th, it is a Sunday. If you're going to be in the Chicagoland area, we're going to be at Joe's Live in partnership with Mikey O events, and we are going to be having a merry mambo. And so there is going to be live orchestras, there's going to be a bunch of bands, and it's only a $20 donation. And we get to party for 6 hours straight from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. on a Sunday. Nobody's going to trabajar Monday, right? You're taking off Monday. It's Christmas week, right? We ain't going to work on Monday, right? So we're going to go out and we're going to get our mambo on and we're going to shake it up and we're going to dance and we're just going to get jolly and merry and have a good time. And all that information is already on our website, autismheroproject.org. There's also a bunch of videos on our media tab, and then there's a bunch of resources for family who need resources on our resources tab. And whatever you don't find there, like since I do the website and I have like 50 million heels that I wear, not hats but tacones, I have my hands in so many things, but we're going to be updating our website to put about all of these inclusive, kind of establishments that we've started to do and the laws and the legislation that we're doing. That part of the website hasn't been updated yet. But, Gato, you said something earlier, and I just want to hit on this before we end. This is a labor of love. This is truly hard work. And because it is all volunteer work, there's really 3 women right now at the helm of this. And we always could use help. And for anyone who's hearing this, who has some time or some talent or some resources that they want to share with the Autism Hero Project, we definitely could use it. We're impacting a lot of families, but, we all have full-time jobs. And, we put our spare time, our heart time into this. And so if you want to help, I would love for you to reach out to me, Tamika Lechee Morales, on LinkedIn, or hit us up in an email or on, Facebook, whatever way, or autismheroproject@gmail.com. Or if you can't remember that, Tamika@autismheroproject.org. Send me an email, please. Reach out, go to our website, send a message through there. We could really use help. We could use, we're not funded by government grants. We're looking for a grant writer. That's what I want to say. We are looking for a grant writer. So if you or someone is a grant writer or, is familiar in this space, we really, really could use you. That's my ask.
Beautiful. And you know what? Sometimes you have
my
to
birthday's in a couple weeks. It could be a great birthday gift. I'm just saying. 11/11, Veterans Day, baby. I am looking for a grant writer. Please, por favor.
That's what we can do also, post it on LinkedIn where you're looking for a grant writer, and let's see how many hits we get. But we'll do something about it.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Thank you so much, Tamika. You're beautiful. As I always say, thank you for your duluz, for everything that you're doing, and for truly highlighting the need for us to be more inclusive and to be more aware and to learn more about kids in general with disabilities, people with disabilities, and all the options that we have, all the opportunities that we have to help out. Even, reaching out to you and helping you with a website, that's a way to help. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And then, hopefully, one of the things I'm working on, it's a passion project, is we're working on our next kind of documentary, kind of on a bigger scale. So, I'm
hey,
trying to
there's room there, right?
synergize all my talents and bring on people who, find this work important. So,
It is important. It is important, and a labor of love, like you mentioned. Thank you so much, Tamika. It's been great to connect with you. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for all the beauty that you're creating along the way. I wish you nothing but
gracias.
success, and we'll be in
Thank you.
touch.
I love
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you.
everybody, for tuning in.
Adios. Adios. Bye, everyone.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast today and also send me a DM at Caro Veira. Share the love, share the comments, share the thoughts. Special thanks to our partners at the Hispanic Star and Catuna Digital Marketing. Gracias mil. Thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll be back next time with a new episode of Hablemos. Ciao.